Welcome to the Salaga Slave Market. My name is Ibrahim Jamal Sita. I'm the Municipal Cultural Officer for East Gunja. Salaga is one of the oldest towns in Ghana. Salaga grew up with towns like Yendi, Bono Mansu, Ketekrechi, and the rest. So Salaga used to be described as the Timbuktu of the South because most of the features of the Timbuktu town of Mali is also found in Salaga here, like commercial activities, scholars, and then the rest. According to history, these people they call the Bari were one of the earliest people of Salaga town. Because according to history, the founder of the Gonja kingdom, Ndaure Jakwa, did not found Salaga. Before his arrival to this part of the Gonja this land, Salaga was already into existence. So what happened is that the people here willingly handed over the town to him to rule because of his capabilities. So he realized that the town was more or less like divided into two. The natives are located at one side, which is Kwembi, and then the foreigners or the settlers who were the Zabarma, the Bari, the Hausa, the Fulani were also located at one side. So due to that, he established monarchy at Pembi to rule over the people here, to rule over Salaga, because that is where the natives are found. So the people of Kwembi not only give foreigners, that is the Hausa, the Fulani, and then the Zabarma people, the land there to build, but they also gave them lands to build like infrastructure such as guest houses, schools, and then Arabic. Now due to the this availability of these social amenities, the town grew very fast. So one time when the Kwembi people visited Salaga, the town which the small town they gave the foreigners, they realized the town has expanded. So out of surprise, they exclaimed, "I be kadna Salaga." Mingonja, meaning our town has expanded. So the word Salaga, according to history or oral tradition, is what has been corrupted to Salaga we are here, this we know today. So I think that is how can we arrive at the name Salaga. And Salaga, the slave trade did not make Salaga, the popular Salaga we know, because in the 16th century, Salaga became the #1 cola market in sub-Saharan Africa. So it was already a commercial town before the Salaga slave trade, before the beginning of the Salaga slave trade. I think when it comes to religion, the Hausa people from Nigeria introduced the Islamic religion to Salaga. Religion was introduced to the people by an Arabic scholar known as Alfano from Nigeria. And today when you visit Salaga, the dominant religion is the Islamic religion, followed by other religions like the Christianity and then the traditional religion. It is also described as a town of 1,000 wells because almost every house in Salaga today you will find a well due to the water problem that they faced earlier as a result of the number of people trooping in Salaga at that time. So to solve that problem, a lot of this wells has been dug almost in every house. So Salaga is described as a town of 1,000 wells. In the 16th century, it became the #1 cola market in sub-Saharan Africa. However, the Salaga slave trade, we always tell people, was not the beginning of slave trade in Africa or Ghana. Before the Salaga slave trade, there was just a slave trade going on. The Salaga slave trade started in the 17th century, to be precise, 1732. In 1732, there was war between the Ashanti people and then the Bono people. At that time, towns like Amantin, Ejura, Atibobo, up to Tachima used to be part of the Gonja land. Hence, they became neighbors to the Bono people. So during that war between the Ashanti and then the Bono, the Gonja people decided to go and help the Bono people who were their neighbors. However, in the end, the Ashanti people defeated them both, the Gonja people and then the Bono people. So in the past, normally when you conquer an enemy, you try to kidnap a king. When you seize the king, meaning you have succeeded in conquering the kingdom. The Gonja king, who was in the person of Kwambura and Apo, was kidnapped. Him, his cousin, and the nephew, and they were taken to Kumasi. So afterwards the war, the Kwambi people came home. When they came back home, and they were kind of, how do we get our king back? So there was a lot of suggestions. So finally, after a lot of discussion, they arrived at they concluded that they should send a delegation to go and plead with the Asantehene to see as to whether he will release the king. So when the delegation went and then pleaded, they agreed, the Asantehene agreed to release the king, but with a condition. And the condition is that every year the Gonja people have to give them 1,000 slaves. So they came back and then gave the message. This is what the people said. So some were became very furious and see it to be very harsh. And others also said, we have no option than to agree, because if we say we will not agree, even today, if we say we are going to fight, then they'll still defeat us. So we have no option than to agree. They agree with that condition. So that marked the beginning of the Salaga Slave Trade. So from 1732 up to 1743, every year, the Ashanti people will send down their soldiers here for 1,000 slaves. Now what they do is that the Gonja people will also have to go around surrounding villages here up to even beyond Upper East, Upper West, to be able to gather these 1,000 slaves. So when the Ashanti people come for them here and then took them to Kumasi, so from Kumasi they will select those ones they want to keep. Then the rest they proceed with them to Cape Coast and then sell them to the whites. So the white people never came here. The white people never came here. The Salaga slave trade was conducted just by the slave agents who were the Hausa and then the Zabarma people and the other tribes who were earlier here trading in Kola. So while this was going on, the Hausa, the Zabarma were also going around buying and then raiding the slaves. So for them, they moved from here up to Upper East, Upper West. And then it took them sometimes like 50 days before arriving. At some places they buy, others they raid. However, in the end they gather the slaves and then bring them to the Salaga slave market. So before arriving at the market, because the slaves walk from a long distance, they look dirty. Now, the slave agent is with the idea that anything dirty doesn't attract high price. So before bringing them to the market, they first of all bring them to a place they call slaves' wells and bath. Into bracket, Wankambai in Hausa. It's a Hausa language, Wankambai. Wanka means bath. Hausa, this Mbai means slaves. So the wells there were dug by the slaves. So that is where they first of all bring the slaves, they fetch water from the wells. Then they take it to the bath, and then they have the female bath and then the male's bath. So they bath there. Those of them who sell the bushy, they use things like broken mirror, broken bottle, and they shave off the hair. Then the slave agent will give them shea butter to moisturize their skin. Then from then they are prepared for market like that. Then from then they take them to the slave markets, where they display them like animals. They chain them, and so where you are shackled or chained is where you be stuck. You'll be standing there till a buyer comes. When the sun is scorching, you are in it. When rain is coming, you are in it. You are just there. And they are also mixed with other commodities and then animals. So they used to call it Babankasua because it was a very big market. We also have the slave cemetery, where the slave dead body are being dumped or buried. Or sometimes those slaves who prove stubborn are taken to punish. So when they punish them and then they realize they are dying, they leave them there to die. When they die, the dead body is dumped there. You realize vultures will come there and then fed on them this in the flesh. From here that the slaves are taken to Kumasi or to Cape Coast. So this is the origin of most of the African slaves. This is their origin. It's from here that they are taken to Cape Coast. Then from Cape Coast they are taken across the Atlantic Ocean. That's why they call it the transatlantic slave trade, because the slaves are taken across the Atlantic Ocean. Yes. So the Salaga slave trade was abolished alongside the transatlantic slave trade in 1833. But to come back to the Gwanja Bono Ashanti War, in 1743, the Gwanja people refused to provide the slaves. So the Ashanti people in 1744, 1745, then 1745, the Ashanti people invaded Pembi and then attacked the Gonjas for refusal to give the slaves. So the battle became very fierce. At that time, the Bunu people also came down and then helped the Gonjas. The battle became very fierce. They fought from Pembi up to the Salaga Slave Cemetery. Then from the cemetery to a particular point where we currently have this in the Center for National Culture Structure. At that point, they overpowered the Gwanja people alongside their Bono neighbors. So now again they were targeting the king. However, this king who was in the but then a new king has emerged. The era of Kwambiura Napo was over. It was now Kwambiura Esa Warfo. So Kwambiura Esa Warfo didn't want to be captured and then taken to Kumasi so that his people will suffer like they suffered previously. So he fought all that he could up to that point. So at that point he was captured. So when they captured him, spiritually he vanished. However, when he vanished, he didn't come home and he has also never been seen. So his grave was dug there to serve his memory in 1960s. History ended that the last batch of the slaves were taken to Kumasi. The Ashanti people were on their way to Cape Coast when the announcement came that the transatlantic slave trade has been abolished. So they couldn't proceed with the slave to Cape Coast and then sell them to the white. However, they brought them back. They also couldn't bring them back to Salaga here. So they sold them in Kumasi as domestic slaves among the Ashantis. So as time went by, they gave them marks and then named them, this in Donko, meaning like a domestic slave. So as time went by, there was intermarriage between the Ashanti and then these slaves. So that gave rise to new generation of Ashantis like Tiktol and then this thing, because history has it that the native Ashantis are black and then short. However, because of the intermarriage between the Ashantis and then these slaves, we now have a new breed of Ashanti who are tall and then thick. So the Salaga slave trade was abolished in 1833 alongside the transatlantic slave. Some relics of the Salaga slave market. This is a spear. This spear is used by the slave agent as a weapon to protect themselves against the danger of being attacked by any wild animal when coming to the Salaga slave market. So these are some of the things they use to protect themselves, because as coming, since they walk in a thick forest, there's a risk of being them attacked by a wild animal. So they need something like this, or a weapon to protect themselves. So these are what they use as weapons at then. Then this one, that is a gun. These guns were introduced to our people by the Dutch. We call it the Dutch gun. Normally, it doesn't use bullets. They use this gunpowder. However, the slave agents use them to either raid or scare the stubborn slaves. Normally, when they enter when the people hear that the slave agent or the slave raiders are coming, sometimes they run and then they run to hide. So when the slave agent realize that the people are hiding, so they start shooting. So hearing the sound, the gunshot, these people who normally hid comes out running for safety. Then you see that they get them to catch and then chain them and bring them to a distance. So those are the guns. There were also some of the items that were exchanged for the slaves at that time. This is also another gun. Any original Dutch gun will have these things on it, like you see here. So that is one of the Dutch guns. They were also used to exchange for the slaves. That time, one of the most demanded commodities were the guns during the slave, because at that time, while the slave trade was going on, our people were also into war of conquest. So every king or chief need more guns to fight others to expand his kingdom. So and this is also another spear. That's also another spear which was used as a weapon for protection when coming to the Salaga slave market. Then, like we said earlier, this one is very heavy. Very, very heavy. And you can see my voice has changed. That tells you how heavy it is. So, this was used to dig the wells. That is why they used in digging the slaves' wells above, the wells that you have seen over there. I told you earlier, the slaves that are made to dig it to serve the water scarce of water problem that they were experiencing at that time due to the number of people trooping in Salaga at the time for commercial activities and then the slave trade. So this was used to dig the distance. And then this chain is used to chain the slaves when bringing them to the market. This one like this can be used to chain about 40 to 50 slaves. Yes, this one that you see. So this one is used to chain the male slaves, and then this one the female slaves. So if you hold the two, if you weigh them, you could see the weight. This one is used to shackle them on the leg. Like when they are brought to the market, they will fix this one in their distance and then lock it. Then they will use this to hook a tree or something. So where it's been hooked, that is where you are shackled, you remain there standing like that till a buyer comes. If the sun is scorching, you are in it. If it's raining, you are in it. You are just there, you are just stuck there. Yes, that tells you what the slaves have went through. You are just there like that. You can't say I'm hungry. You can't say you are just there like that. So it's the same thing applied to all these three. It's used to shackle the slaves, this and that. And this one, at that time, it's only the rich who drinks water in this. Water in this used to be very expensive, like the way our fridges, it's only the rich people you find fridge in their restaurant. The same thing applied to this one. So that is the purpose, is for storage of water and then selling it to the riches. And I earlier made mention that when the slave bath, they give them shea butter to moisturize their skin. So this is the shea butter, as you can see. So this is the shea butter. After bathing, they give it to them to moisturize their skin. Then those of them whose hair will be bushy, after using the broken mirror or broken bottle to shave them off, then they use it. If maybe the person sustained any injury, they use it to apply them. So that is the shea butter. Up to now, we've been able to preserve it, and we still have it. It's here at the Salaga Slave Museum. Then this one, they use it to store water. Yes, so imagine traveling from places like Upper West, coming to Salaga here, then you have water in this. You, the one having, how more will you be able to drink? neither talk of when you get to drink, neither talk of even you the slaves. So that tells you that slaves, they only give them a droplet when they realize they are tasty, not when you slaves say you are tasty. They eat in this. They eat in this. This is why they use as bowls for eating. These ones, and then these ones. Then this one, that is what they bath with. Yes, this one they fetch water with it from the wells. Then they go to the bath, like what we showed you earlier. They go into the this in the bath, squat bath afterwards. Then they are given the shea butter to moisturize their skin.